welcome to the Inglorious Bards recap episode. We are coming to you live from our new studio, so that's why I don't know where to look when I'm talking to you right now. If you're watching us on video, we're excited. We just got a whole bunch of stuff dialed in. We're still got some more work to do with our video template and getting some cool effects and stuff on there, but right now we're super excited to be in our studio together. This episode, we're going to go through a recap of the different episodes we've done and just kind of go through each different episode, what happens. Players can talk about moments that were important to them and kind of get all the way up to the current spot where we're at now. This is not going to be a quick Jeremy recap. This is going to be a long one where we're all just talking, spending a few minutes on each episode. And I'm going to bring up the show notes for each one. Before we begin, let's have a quick recap of our real fast sentence or two of each of our characters starting season 3. We have Ignal Heavybringer.
Ignal is a dwarf from the north, barbarian, loves to swing hammers and swords and axes into faces. Kind of a one-trick pony that way. Likes to get angry. Loves to swear, loves to drink, and he's the best dwarf there is.
All right. And then we have Idrisil over here. Tell us about Idrisil.
Idrisil, the Elven Ranger here, folks. Idrisil was a woodland elf ranger from the Auckland Forest of Iveron. He is a rambunctious, kind of boastful son of a bitch. Loved getting under everyone's skin, especially Jix at the time. And yeah, that was interesting.
All right. And then we had Jix, the Goblin Alchemist.
Jix the Jix from Mirshgan and street urchin turned best alchemist in Navarre. He did some kick-ass stuff, and he was pretty much the best of the group for the most part, except for the rest of them. Besides the rest of them, he was the best. So that's Jix.
Okay, and then we had Xander, the gnome sorcerer.
Xander is the original party member. He's the OG Xander, and he never knew where he came from, but he wanted to be an adventurer, wanted to be a hero, found a couple of other guys in Edlin Home who would take him along with them, and kind of learned a lot of magic on the way. Specifically, found out that he's really good at fire.
All right. And then we had Killian, the priest of Carahel.
Yeah, Killian, whose accent has not been used in a really long time. So I'm not really was originally from the Thousand Isles, traveled to Edlin Home to study at the Temple of Carahel, and traveled with the group for a bit as their healer.
All right. And then Christopher's in the middle, did not join us right away, so you just be completely silent the whole time. All right. Episode 1 of Season 3, Welcome to Edlin Home. The notes read, we start with meeting our new heroes before tossing them right into a chase down a mountainside. The group then returns to the quiet town of Edlin Home, where they run into a strange little goblin and hear of trouble at a nearby farm. All is not well at the farm as our heroes quickly stir up trouble for themselves and the locals with lives at stake. Any thoughts on this one? What happened there?
I mean, the start of this episode was one of the most fun adventures ever. Like whipping down a mountain,
Snowboarding and shooting behind you in the air, rolling Super 19s. It was some major archery happening.
Like 3 natural 20s in our first episode.
Yep.
2 of them, I said he was boastful. We'll fight himself.
And Ignal turned Xander into a break.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think Killian cut Xander loose from trailing behind at one point.
Yep. Sorry, good luck.
And then from that chase, we went to the town of Edlin Home, which became the home base where several of you were from. Not all of you, but several of you were from. So we got to know some people in the town, some places. Like Xander's dad has a tavern.
Right.
There was a lodge that Ignal worked at, that kind of stuff. So we got to know,
Thankful Lodge.
got to know a little bit about the town.
Portmer, the old kind of wise sage, Idrisil's caretaker, sort
That's
of
right.
the master archer of Varen.
And Gabe the Wizard.
But
And then along comes Jix.
Right. Yeah.
quickly
Like starting a fight.
trouble though. We went to the Malin farm to investigate some stuff because the mayor was telling us.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
first NPC.
Was that on episode 1?
Vargalos.
Yeah.
All right.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
Dead little
On-
baby.
in Bottom
that
Hill.
Tom created.
What?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Oh, that was horrific.
Brutally
Yeah.
shredded
Farm,
people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to episode 2.
I was in a dark place.
Yeah. The heck?
Just going through some stuff.
Episode 2 is called Farm of Irony. And let me see if I can find this. Hold on.
Bottom Hill.
Yeah, Bottom Hill. Yeah.
Let me go home. Is there show notes here on Spotify? Taking a quick look. Oh my God, it's not coming up. Farm of Irony. That's where you guys actually went to the farm on top of Bottom Hill. And what happened there? You guys remember?
Yes, there were great big holes, lots of bloodshed, no one surviving that we could tell. And then another gnome, a freaking other little guy that looked like Xander, who also had magic, attacked us. And that was the aforementioned Vargalos. And then he brought out, with his ring, a freaking Enkrov.
Oh, the worm.
What's that?
It's the Tremors worm.
Essentially.
Best way to put it, yeah. Big giant damn worm beast that shot at spit acid.
Burrowing under the ground.
Could
creating
burrow under
all
the ground.
these holes in
Oh.
the farm and stuff. Create this nightmare for all these people.
It's
Like our first mission.
I then show, though, quickly after that, in this episode, the heroes then plunge into a face carved out of the side of a chasm and get far more than they bargained for. So you guys left.
So we defeated Vargalos, or like we did. We took him out,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we followed his steps back to his camp, where he had a little map, had a scrawled out map that had it had
treasure, the swamp witch.
Yeah, the Swamp Witch.
right. That's right. The swamp witch, the treasure, and then there was the tower, like the cog tower, and we're like, oh, that seems important. So we started going up to where that tower was, and on the way there was a canyon, and there was a face carved out of the side of the canyon. And there was like 3 faces.
Yeah.
Right, like different emotional faces, and the one that was screaming, we figured was a good idea to go inside the screaming mouth.
Confidently,
Brilliant.
just jumped right into that. Went unconscious immediately.
We need to go back there.
Yeah.
Well, right before that, we also met Harleo and his snakes. That shitbag Harleo.
Yeah.
Harley on the way back.
So who's Harleo?
We'll find out a little bit more about him later.
Okay.
But he was a guy who had bags of snakes and didn't seem on the up and up. And he said he was going to meet a friend at Edlin Home.
Oh, I think that might be a recurring theme too. We'll find out more about that later. All right. So then I've got episode 3, and stop me if you guys have stuff to add. I'm just going to keep
Well,
going.
we were talking about episode 2, the cave. And, I think Xander's the only person that would actually know about. Oh, well, no, not Jix. Never mind. He's dead.
It's true. Of the entire party that exists now, I would have to convince you guys.
Oh yeah. By the way, this is heavy spoiler. If you didn't get that at all, heavy spoiler.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. We need to go back there because I'm very interested in what whooped our butts at the time. I say we abandon all of our other missions and leave immediately for the
We're going
cave.
to find a lot of things we forgot about.
All right, episode 3, Tower of the Gear. Our heroes battle their way through a forgotten tower to find a secret they've traveled far to find, dangerous guardians, a collapsing structure, a mysterious stranger from the sky, and a missing girl all await them.
There's a lot that happened in that
That
one.
was a lot. It was a big episode. Yeah. So the Master Gear Tower that was on the map, we went into the tower, and there was what seemed to be a really old library, but there was this specter, this ghost, that was kind of the guardian of the tower, and we had to convince it that we were worthy of being heroes. And then it started us and said, you're worthy to take the tests. And so we started going through different challenges, literally working our way up this tower. And getting to the top, when we finally did, we pulled a switch, and literally a second identical tower came up out of the ground. and we had to cross over a bridge space to get to that tower where we found this giant gear mixed around with a whole bunch of other gears floating out of the sky. And Jix lockpicked it, I think, right?
Yep. Got the gear from within this orb of other
Oh, that's right.
cogs.
Floating stuff.
And as soon as that happened,
Yeah, Iggy and Jix almost died. We were caught.
You were caught in the tower because it immediately
the
started
tower
thinking.
started to like sink, and Jix fell, I believe, down to the bottom.
Yeah.
I
With
have
or without the
here-
gear.
I have here Idrisil takes 2 points of hair damage, so it's a very serious.
And if there's a lot of stuff we're gonna be going over. Some of it's just fun, some of it's not terribly important. This stuff though is highlighting. This would be highlights. We're talking about a cog for a chain gate that becomes really important later on, and then there's a visitor from the sky who is also really important later on.
Yeah.
Is that one of the golden god guys?
Yeah, specifically.
Jerks.
First time you meet them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And who was it? Wasn't it Sildren who
Killian.
or Killian who spoke with the Onokrin the first time?
no, I think Xander as Vargalos.
Right, because Onokrin came down and said, "Where have you been?" And Xander immediately assumes, like, "Oh, he's talking to the other guy." And so Xander became Vargalos. I am Vargalos, and how dare you talk to me that way? And completely thought he pulled it off. And continued to, every time there was another encounter with a new hero, he would assume it was Vargalos that they were asking for a while. And it worked out, but
A couple times.
yeah, at this point, like when he the Onokrin came down, talked to Vargalos, and rather than saying "job well done," he quested him with more things and said, "Now you have to do part B, C, and D of our plan." And so we learned what B, C, and D was, but now we have to like either complete it or thwart it, depending on what we come up with.
And the key thing here we're talking about is what they were called the Onokrin. So this was a weird group somewhere else that were like making an
Extraplanar.
image or a hologram or something like that, or teleporting someone in to talk. And they were manipulating this gnome on the mountain and all this stuff. So the Onokrin became this behind the scenes threat early on. I also wanted to mention the previous episode with the faces became an eye-opening, like, wow, this can be super dangerous. And then again in this episode, when several of you were caught as the tower's going down, while that wasn't a battle of damage, that was like a Boolean of, are you going to die or not instantly? Like,
Yeah.
ooh, like, that was a little harsh early on, if I'm going to admit it.
But it really did like make it clear, like, oh, this is a life or death
Yeah,
scenario.
well, welcome to the campaign. I
Yeah,
mean,
that one
because
got bad.
yeah,
All right, let's move.
Another thing that happened
Yes.
in that tower is we lost a month.
That's right.
Holy shit.
yeah,
Yeah, we just lost a bunch of time.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
The weather completely
That's cool.
changed between going in and coming out. That's right.
All right. Episode 4, Den of Serpents. A huge new ally awaits the heroes in their search for the Swamp Witch, but the adventure takes a turn deep underground to an ancient city inhabited by a dangerous race of primitives. What happened there?
Charg.
We started this episode in
They were dangerous.
the Thrrrrree Forest, heading towards that swamp witch, like you just mentioned.
And why? Why were you going after her?
Gosh, I don't
There was
There's a
a
missing
girl.
child.
There was
A missing girl.
And the
Yeah.
missing girl.
child.
Yeah.
Quest for a missing girl.
But on the way there, Jeremy just said the name. We met a giant. Chark. I have it right here. Chark.
Charg.
And he was like guarding a cave, and like talking about snakes and lizards and stuff, and trying to kill them all and stuff. So we inquired, trying to befriend this giant, not knowing.
Not just befriend,
Yeah.
he made a pet out of Iggy. He thought he was the best. Picked you up and just kept hitting you on the head, petting you.
Yeah, so we headed down into the cave and we met a bunch of Zulgoth.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Lizard
Good call.
folk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
My
they're
favorite.
fairly primitive.
the leader
Yeah.
Toka. What was
Yeah.
he all about?
This was
Christopher?
the first appearance.
Oh, Toka. I don't even remember his accent.
It was a very,
But very, 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 very primitive. From what I remember, he was kind of pulling a little bit of the wool over the eyes of his tribe. He's trying to. You guys had come in, and he needed to make it seem like you guys were worthy.
It was the coolest thing. So we went into the initial cave, and then we went deeper into the cave after defeating what Charg said was like the actual threat, and we found out that there was another level. And when we went to that other level, we went underground, and there was this entire city of blue stone, this buried area, and there were statues of elves. And when we stopped fighting for a hot second, all of the Zulgoths saw Idrisil and like bowed down to him like he was a god. And so then
That's what it was.
And that's then Toka came out, and we then had to do the prove ourselves, right, and to free the god from this mortal coil.
He also didn't want you exploring this other city because that was absolute death if you were to go there. But he had to have the tribe convinced that you were at least godlike and willing or worthy of walking around without, insistence and everything. Because if you started that, and I think his life was in peril too. Like I couldn't remember. Like they wouldn't believe you.
Right, because you tentative losing your power
well,
because you're the second in command.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Yeah, well,
She didn't believe in us.
she was very
I have
doubtful.
it here.
Solar Seth.
Yeah, Solar Seth.
She did not trust Idrisil for a blank.
Nope.
Versus Lunar Seth.
She was the sister, and she didn't want to play.
For me, what was interesting from the Game Master side on this episode was showing the first hints of the first age of Varen without really pointing that out, but just some of these ruins and some of these gods is kind of interesting. I remember Jeremy, or at least Xander, just being, I want to explore all this stuff. It was like,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. All right. So it was only half of the Zolgath duo episodes. That was the first half getting in. The second half is when Christopher joined us, and that was episode 5.
I think, yeah.
All right, let's go to episode 5 just real fast if I can find it here.
Ascension of
Ascension.
Oh, yes. Is that what we named the episode?
If we named it anything else, we
Beneath an
we're
underground
idiots.
city, the heroes have been captured by a tribe of troglodytes. Viewed as both prisoner and demigods, the heroes must prove their powers to the troglodyte chief and his people. Challenge after challenge, the heroes embark on one final task that takes them through a dangerous tower and the deadly denizens that live within.
Yeah.
Deadly Denizens.
Jix came to play with his potions. This was the first time that he was like, hey, I can do things for you guys too. And so we would
We had the Juggernaut.
have the Juggernaut with juiced up and like tore our clothes a little bit.
We had the one where you could eat really gross things and not take damage. What's it?
Constitution.
Constitution damage.
Uh-huh.
What else?
Well, what about the ascension of the flesh?
Yeah, it was a series of trials. They went pretty much as expected, which is
No, they didn't.
No, it was so good because there were 4 different instances where they were perfect, right? We did these amazing
First challenge
feats.
was strength.
Big strength challenge.
Second challenge was knowledge or magic. Third challenge
Tore that
was
up.
courage. And the
Dexterity.
And did fourth challenge. It should have been dexterity, I believe.
Then there was the challenge where Idrisil fell on his
Idrisil
face.
natural one on his face and got completely stuck in the goo.
The one high god.
Looking at the
show them.
looking at the chieftain and the second lieutenant, it's like
No.
a second try, which I think failed as well.
Killian pulled off a cool trick during that whole thing, and he had a torch, like the ever burning torch, which caused no heat damage, and he had to I think it was like the proving the courage or whatever, or something along
Might have
those.
been the only successful.
And
Yeah, you know, like had to killed an alligator or something.
Well, Zach
Yeah.
down with an
Yeah,
elemental
Bards.
toss for the second challenge and just completely burst a jet of water off of this boulder, knocked it off of a wall. That was the challenge.
yeah,
I don't know that, but yeah, I got natural.
And then the second half of the episode, which was the ascension, I thought was fun. But then the second half was then the final challenge, which is getting you guys up to the witch where we ended. What was that process of going up through this old tower thing?
yeah.
It wasn't very nice.
Why are you pointing that out, Tom?
Yeah, there was the weird little golem shit swimming thing that was swimming around that was really vicious and attacking. But we made it past that. We grabbed this hunk of iron and a couple of other gadgets from another
Magnifying
room.
glass.
Magnifying glass.
It was just a hunk of iron. That's all it was.
that
Yeah, and then we went in. We went through the door into the other room. Flipped a switch. I don't remember who flipped the switch. I'm going to assume it was probably Xander.
Xander or Jix.
Yeah, we flipped it, and then a gelatinous ooze.
Gelatinous cube.
Gelatinous cube came
Yes.
straight down on top of us, like no escape from that.
It was almost a TPK.
Yeah,
It was super close.
Any budding game masters out there, if you're balancing an encounter mathematically with a gelatinous cube, it's assuming there's a horizontal battlefield. Once you make it vertical, the difficulty is just insane because it just has to sit there and just go down, and it just murders them. Oh, it was brutal.
This was the one with the creature, the white, the solemn white. That
Yep.
you had, that inched up out of the water,
Yeah.
and it was just being
Out of the
creepy
muck.
and-
He's just being
Calling it
creepy
water
and
is generous.
oozing, like started biting people.
Liquidy, yeah.
Oh my god, good notes. All right, let's move on to the next one, which was of witches and gnomes. In an acid-filled swamp, the heroes launch a surprise attack on a witch to get the girl rescued. They battle an endless swarm of rats and dark spells to rescue a girl kidnapped from Edlin Home. Their adventure takes a critical turn where they are forced to make a decision that affects their town and possibly the entire kingdom. You remember what that stuff was about?
No.
I do.
Man,
I remember the rats now, and they're just swarms.
the
of
rat.
Yes. That was one of the first times I think we saw the grease spell.
The grease spell.
Yeah.
Had a wand, had a
Yeah.
grease wand that just launched out, and I was like, I'm gonna grease the bridge, and like, thankfully eliminated half of that pack of rats. But then there were like 3 other packs, and it just like it
Yeah.
didn't do
And then
enough.
there was also a flying.
Flying minion type things.
Homunculus.
Like,
Yeah.
Homunculus. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The flying umbrella things, yeah.
I pictured like a Pokeball with wings.
Plot-wise, you guys rescuing the girl then helped out a lot with you guys being viewed much more professionally or seriously as
Yeah, that's when we
adventurers.
became the Defenders
Yeah,
of Edlin
That
Home.
was
Yeah.
that was when we became Defenders of Edlin Home. You're right.
Now, the episode title is the clue to the last bit of it. It's not of witch and gnome, it's of witches and gnome. What happened on the way back?
Yeah.
That's-
You want to talk about that, Xander?
He doesn't know!
Oh, Kelly. Oh, so right. This is when we had back, and we got another encounter of someone calling out to the gnome again, and so Xander was very clear that he's like, "Aha! This is for Vargalos." And so Xander strode up as Vargalos, and she told me to drop the ruse, and I didn't believe her. And Xander kept going, and she killed him. Like with one blow, like she took all of his health and knocked him back 30 feet, bouncing off of a tree 20 feet high. Killian was like, "Oh, hang on," and like instantly went in to start healing him, but rather than just decided to be fully honest.
Yeah, because like things were going really poorly, and I think
bad.
the rest of like the party was like on the verge of basically suicide by sorceress, and and Killian was like, well, like let's actually he just came clean, talked about everything, and ended up she was an ally and a very powerful ally from the Wizards of Azamir, who's in the southwest section of Varen, the continent, rather powerful group of wizards.
We're gonna get there in a little bit still, but imagine how easy it would have been for her to just annihilate all of us.
Yeah.
Or at least
Nope.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll find another party. Nope.
Looking at where we are now, what she still has to offer, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
All right, let's move on to episode 7, Into the Lion's Den. Now, I think this one was just more of a upkeep or small story because it's pretty much what we already talked about. Heroes return to Edlin Home with the missing girl taken by the Swamp Witch. They must make a critical decision on what to do with the master gear that you found in the tower, leave it in the capable hands of the sorceress Callian Varro, or try to use the master gear to close the chain gate themselves. That, I think the only thing we need to talk about is that decision. That's a huge decision.
And that weighed on all of us because we were like I know it, like there was a lot of conversation about that, and
said some
there was a
things
lot
about
of vacillating back and forth.
Vacillating.
It set some things in motion.
All right, well, let's go then right quickly to episode 8.
Real quick.
Yes.
Well, just a small but important note is in that episode 7, by returning Mordic's daughter, he gave us the Meyer pins.
Oh!
To play later.
All right, so remember the name Meyer pins. They were very useful later on. And they were not given any description as to what
No,
they
we
did
didn't
at
know
all.
what the hell they were.
Good call. All right, episode 8 is a big landing spot called Chain Gate. The heroes attack the chain gate to stop the portal opening between worlds. Magic, fire, teleportation, and terrible teamwork bring a surprising end to the adventure. Discuss.
Yeah. So we originally went with the continuing ruse of Vargalos, right? Vargalos is going to continue to go in there. He's going to stomp in and do his thing and try to Xander's going to con his way as Vargalos all the way up to the chain gate so that we can make it vulnerable, according to what Callian Varro said, by activating it, then destroying it from the other side.
With fire.
With fire. It was the hope.
Xander's favorite word.
And the con went pretty well. We actually encountered the wizard that was somewhat in charge of the thing. There was also the orc who was in charge of security.
SOG, SOG.
Sog, that's right. But when the go happened, when it was the launch the fire, Xander kind of jumped the gun and didn't really make sure that everyone was on board at the same time.
Oh, he just completely disregarded the instructions we were given, and
100%.
yeah,
Yeah. Wasn't Jix a little bit?
yeah. You two were like in cahoots with each other on
Yeah,
it.
I think Xander and Jix.
Is this a recap or an intervention?
Right.
It's a bitter story for.
Yeah, and it did not go super well, right? Because
No, the three of you, the Jix, Killian, and Xander, like ran through the gate once you got it fired up.
got it fired up, couldn't melt it down, even with the bomb. And so we ended up going through the gate. Killian grabbed Xander and shoved him through to get to the other side.
Yeah, Jix had a big ass bomb or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got to the other side, found out that's where we were now in the Honorcrin's land or home or
Those
castle.
golden people we talked
There
about.
were golden people, and they like shocked to see us, but immediately starting to take action. And then Killian, you had an artifact or some sort of a special weapon, right? Because you threw a spear.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you did. You threw it to destroy the chain gate on the other side. It was an amazing roll. And then all three of us had to get back through before the portal closed. And Killian and Jix made it through, and Xander didn't.
That changed a whole lot.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, that's a big branch off of the story
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to that then. Episode 9, Lost in Time and Space. The heroes arrive at the town of Tabernary. So this was now moving to a whole different town, which is rather significant. A larger town to travel there to find some way to rescue their friend Xander. Xander's now stuck in limbo between worlds. The little gnome is lost somewhere in time and space, and only his friends can save him.
Now, we somehow found out that in order to get Xander
We
back,
went to Gabe.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the
Gabe
last
the wizard.
episode.
He's a
Gabe the
wizard in Edlin Home that we had some
that's right.
contact
He gave
with.
us the special chalk.
Chalk.
Eccentric old wizard.
And
And
he
then we
told
talked
us-
to Xander's dad, and he gave us like a little bunny.
The bunny.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
needed something that
Wiggles.
was a connection to
And we needed
Xander.
to be somewhere that had a lot of like life sources.
Yep, a lot of people
We-
to draw.
I guess it was maybe Gabe told us that too. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why we went to Tabernary, I think, because it was a bigger town
Yep,
Yep.
and we
that's
could,
exactly why we went.
It
Yep.
was the biggest town. Like,
Yeah.
Close by.
Within time frame wise.
Yeah, because we could have tried to do it in Edlin Home. We could have tried to do it in Tabernary, and then there was like I think Mirskan was coming into play at that time. So further away was a big city where we would have had a better chance, but the timeline would have worked against us. So we took the kind of middle road and went for
And then
Tabernary.
you guys got everything all prepped for this ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is also where we saw the wolf badge for the first time in this episode. And
come into
no
play
less
again.
on a hanging dead body. from Gallows.
Not only that, but this was also on the way to Tavern via boat. You guys talked to soldiers who were asking if you knew anything about the wolf. There was a little marker sign on the wall.
Yeah.
So the wolf, this was another very early foreshadowing of something that would have a huge impact later on in the campaign.
And we saw our first tower of Scourgeonar.
The Tower of Scourgeonar, another visual which has massive implications later. We just lightly saw, and those names will come up later. So back to the ceremony. Ceremony's all set. You guys start working on this ceremony, and the whole thing then shifts over to just Xander and I role playing.
Yeah, and Xander is literally falling through worlds. He's going from chain gate to chain gate to chain gate, and ending up in this area where he gets pooped out of this portal, where the whole world is made of paint, and then has to run to another one where he's in the middle of a battlefield, and there's two armies closing in on him on both sides, and he jumps through that one, and he then is in the middle of a stream or a river and has to go down the river and all the other way to find the portal at the bottom of the waterfall, and he just keeps falling through, trying to run his way to the next one, and sometimes doing really well getting there fast, sometimes not, stumbling and tripping and barely making it in a couple of instances. On his way through, he encountered people that he didn't understand or didn't recognize, and who made it clear with him that he was not supposed to be there. Like every time he showed up, they're like, "Oh, you aren't in the wrong place." He at one point was on a giant airship and had to fall out of the sky into where there was dragons flying through. He went through one area that had bubbles of worlds, like big circles of worlds that he was very clear to not touch. But that was where he was given the most kind of advice of where he was. And then he even encountered a wizard at one point with a great like web gauntlet on his arm right after beating a metal spider with giant needles. That as soon as they came up, Seth went pale. And he's like, "Oh shit!" And I was like, "What's happening?" And it was a very panic-inducing moment. And like when Xander cast his spell on that wizard, it was this huge explosion that happened. But eventually, falling through. There was a moment where off to the side, not even in the portal itself, but like a separate entrance, there was a drawing of Mr. Wiggles, a rabbit. His rabbits, his stuffed rabbit.
Oh, you missed one.
Oh, which one? The portal? Kolsch. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Kolsch, that's right. So one of the final portals he went through, he ended up in this futuristic world surrounded by a bunch of insects, a bunch of big bugs. And Kolsch, a giant cat person, fell out of the sky in front of him, carrying someone. And they attacked each other a little bit. Kolsch was very, very formidable. So Xander stopped immediately and talked their way through. And Kolsch followed Xander through the last chain gate, or through the next one at least, and they all got free from the giant insects that were there. And then kind of promised that if they ever encountered each other again, that they'd have each other's backs.
And you healed Catherine.
Oh, that's right. And Xander was able to use the spell.
I believe.
Stabilizer and healer.
Let me take it over from here. For me, this was one of my most proudest episodes ever because all these different worlds he's talking about were previous campaigns, multiple seasons of the Inglorious Bards, and then campaigns we never even aired. So him just jumping through these different moments was super cool and super fun for me. I could see some of the lights going off from some of the more veteran players going, "Wait, is this?" And that the gray ascent from season 1 that exploded, that became the answer to that puzzle. All these different things was really, really cool. And to give season 2 closure, that was, again, just super fun for me as a game master to have explored. And then I'll say we had all these different building up moments, players doing different things, story-wise, mechanically-wise. It all came down to some certain roles, and then it failed. And this was exciting. Everything leading up to this game mastering moment, and that was huge, like amazing episode. And then to fail and then watch Xander drift away and him being lost and gone and going to die took this episode to a whole new level of, oh my God. And then what happened?
And then Killian took, I guess, whatever little bit of divine power he had and essentially reached through to sacrifice himself in order to save Xander and prevent him from being lost forever. So he ended up pulling Xander through and putting himself in through. I think I rolled pretty well in order to accomplish that, and then Killian was never seen from again.
Yeah.
I just had this visual of Killian just walking into the, like the circular portal of fire, and just Xander getting like thrown out almost, and
Yeah.
all of us characters kind of just sitting there waiting.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
The
Yeah,
portal dissolves
I
and-
like that.
It was crazy. That was just amazing. And we ended there.
That was the first party death.
First party death.
First of many.
And then, then we'll jump into the next one, episode 10, Night at the Theater. The heroes meet a new ally with information about a dangerous shadow fiend. They search the town of Tavernry for an old theater and find danger lurking within. A magical device designed to banish the fiend brings both salvation and chaos for the heroes.
Oh my gosh.
So we have a new arrival.
Yeah, so that was Sildren, a half-elf druid. And he came up from the woods in Azamir as a agent of the wizards of Azamir, one of them being Callian Varro.
One of my favorite intros of a character, I'll just say.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
really cool. Wait.
Yeah. Iggy was pissing in the alley and a knife came up to his throat. And
And Sildren put a arrow through the
Yeah.
guy threatening Iggy. That's one of the last times he used his bow.
And then there's this whole shadow fiend,
Right.
Yeah. That's
which sounds like just a normal generic monster of the week, but it wasn't.
I don't know.
what was his name?
Raina.
Gesto. I mean,
So,
Yeah, when Sylvan showed up, it wasn't just out of the blue. Like he was straight up on a mission.
He was on a mission.
Yeah.
To find Killian, I believe.
Well,
He was to contact Killian because
Yes.
he was sent by Callian Varro, but his goal was to capture and
Banish.
Raina.
And he had a
crystal-
magical item, a minor
crystal
artifact.
box.
Yeah,
Crystal box.
basically a box that was supposed to help capture him.
did a good job.
Yeah,
Yeah, about that.
right.
yeah.
So the theater that we went into, we found out was full of undead. There were zombies in there, and there were hags. And when we made it to the bottom of the theater, that's where we found Raineth, who was this shadow wizard. I can't think of anything else to call him other than this creature, but he could control magic and he could use it against us. And he was strong. He was formidable, and you were able, as Sildren, to get the crystal box out. And when it was dropped, it kind of opened itself up and turned into this giant cage.
Yeah, I think it was a horrible throw, though, if I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't great aim, and Raineth, who was being sucked in a little bit, was able to start pulling himself out, and we had no tools against him. Like every time we tried to hit him, we couldn't. He was just too easy and too slippery.
So let's get to the end of that. What happened there at the end, Tim?
So, doing what any good goblin would do, Jix jumped at Raineth and pulled him into the cage. But in doing so, caught himself in the cage as well.
So Jix was gone.
So Jix
Yeah, he
and
both
Raineth disappear
To places unknown.
to places found out later.
yeah. And this wasn't like a Xander gone and then rescued next episode. Jix was gone for like 5,
This
6.
was the end of the episode. Yeah.
But Jix was
And-
gone for 5 or 6 episodes
Exactly.
after that, right?
And then there was no knowing if Jix was coming back, where he went, where Raineth was.
Right, and so this Raineth guy is a minion, a lieutenant, if you will, of another very major force. Again, just big foreshadowing of things to come that we'll find out later. All right, so yeah, Jig's gone. Episode 11, another one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
A whimsical, violent farce. Our heroes find a new ally, Sir Brenros Aldramain, who brings news of slavers in the town of Tavernry. The heroes join forces with this old knight and crash a dinner party featuring the most wealthy and powerful folks in town. It's high stakes, fine cuisine, a dangerous heist, and everything that could possibly go wrong. So Sir Brenros was played by Brad Fortier here in Portland, not by Christopher at this time. Brad joined us just for this one adventure, and want to describe what happened here?
So this was also one of my favorite episodes, just because of the way that it went down. So being new to D&D still at this point, and having a guest actor come in, wasn't really sure what to expect from the episode, but I knew we were continuing the adventure. I did not expect it to end in a semi-slavery, bougie party that's just gone to hell. Like, it was just the most fun, raucous event ever. So this is where we meet Jesto for the first time.
And we came in disguise, if I remember.
We did. It was all Sir Brenro's idea, funnily enough.
Don't look at me.
He decided that to invade, I believe it was Anshiel. Is that the manor house that we were going to? The Tenmore house. There was a party there, and so Sir Brenros decided to go as a slaver instead of as a bold noble knight. Idrisil and Xander were chosen to be his escorts under the names Chastity and Lace.
They looked very pretty.
And this was the start of a whole theme of outfits for Idrisil. A whole wardrobe line that he's coming out with in 2022.
The Chastity and Lace line.
Yeah, it was more interesting for me on a role-playing standpoint to see how frustrated Jeremy could get with not being good at doing the dishes, not being good at cooking. Not being good. I couldn't tell who was Xander and where was Jeremy.
Yeah, there was a lot.
super fun.
Because we were technically slaves, when we went in, all of our sneaking around and subterfuge that we were expecting to do didn't work out because we were put to work.
Right.
So Xander's suddenly supposed to be this young girl who works in the kitchens who had to start putting dishes together, but he doesn't cook. And his roles proved that he didn't cook. And it was just one thing after the other that I just had to come up with. And this is what food looks like. And this is what desserts look like. And it was disastrous. But right near the end, Xander was about to be found out. And it was clear that we were not going to escape. We were stuck as slaves in this house.
Yeah.
So in order to cause the distraction and make things happen, Xander lashed out and made an attack.
On the chef.
On the chef, I believe. Yeah, who was not ready for it. And then Iggy came in to save the day.
Yeah, he did, but in trying to heal the chef that was mortally wounded, he just went ahead and finished the job.
Accidentally with some natural ones.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's important to note here that Vinali was one of the guests at the party. She was captain of or not yet, but she was in the guard in Tavernry, and so was Senator Nythor was at that party as well.
So just starting to hint at some of the politics to come down the road.
And that was when Sildren snuck upstairs, right?
Yeah.
And he had an item that, basically, it's you open it up and it's a chest and it'll grow and then you can put stuff in it and it'll shrink again. And Sildren found a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't have been able to get out of there with, like a really nice bow and a couple other things.
Fancy swords, ledger books.
Yeah, including using his raven Yathane to fly away with a couple bags of gold. He managed to get those items out of Anshiel's house as well, which the bow served Idrisil well.
Did.
So if you haven't listened to that episode, that's episode 11, Whimsical Violent Farce. Just jump to the halfway point, and it's a great hour and a half, 2 hours, I think, for sure.
It's a good high school.
All right, episode 12, I'm just going to blow right through. It's a pretty standard battle at the Low House. The heroes go and defeat some slavers. I don't think there was much more than that, but the next one is where it starts to open up a bit with who watches the Watchers. The heroes say farewell to Sir Brenros for now, before taking on a new assignment to find a murderer in town. During the investigation, they finally unlock the secrets to the Meyer pins, as well as the group known as the Wolves. So this is where you met the wolf named Reese. Want to tell them what the wolf means and all that stuff?
Well, at first, we thought it couldn't mean anything good, of course. So Idrisil, I believe Sildren, somebody else, I think maybe Brenros, but three of us went after him, and he was standing over a body. One of the first times we met him. So Idrisil bum rushed him and tried to tackle him, but he escaped us. And
Yeah, we had
and we chased him again. But like once we cornered him, he kind of spoke to us and like let us know what side he was on and like stopped fighting us.
yeah.
And we started like having this conversation and recognizing like, oh, wait a minute, you're fighting things that we stand for.
right.
And like that seems to be a good thing to be around. So we decided to team up with him, even only though it was half trusting in the process.
Yeah, so instead of the wolves being this terrible group, this, I don't know, insurgent that you've
Yeah.
been led to believe, now you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, this was a lot of like blurring the lines and kind of, you
Yeah.
know, it's not as black and white as it seems, you know, like who's in charge maybe shouldn't be in charge, and those thoughts start to creep in.
All right, let's go to episode 14, Enemy at the Gate. So right after you cornered this wolf, the heroes confront a murder of the town guard while another threat looms just outside the city gates. Magic and violence break out as the heroes struggle to find this new enemy assaulting the town of Tabernary. Another big battle scene.
It's a fun episode.
That was a fun episode.
It was a fun battle for some of us.
Sort of.
That's right.
It was huge. I remember the just the battlefield
battle map was
alone was
huge.
huge,
Yeah.
and
Big skeletons.
the dwarf wasn't getting very far.
It was the first time that we were like, we should all spread out. And Eagle's like, no! That's the worst idea.
What's interesting to me is at this point, it seems like we're half or 2/3 of the way through an epic long campaign, but we're only like 14 episodes in. You know?
Yeah.
It seems like so long. So yeah, there was this big battle, a whole bunch of undead. So I think that's where it ended. And the key part is where did they come from, which takes us to episode 15, Tower of Skordrenar. The heroes continued their descent down into an old tower. So you went out of town into this tower you saw on your way in, but they are not alone. Dangerous shrines and talking orbs of shadow show no mercy for the adventurers. What do you remember about your first Tower of Skordrenar?
Oh, man. I remember that there was an orb of light that we were super wary about on the second floor that turned out to actually heal us. It was like a boost, and we're like, oh, we could trust that. Also, there was writing. There was writing on a wall that shifted and changed, but it was originally a language that we couldn't really understand, and it was the start of Xander really diving into. I want to learn this. I want to know what these languages are and where this magic comes from, and started really trying to study and learn to gain the passages of Scoriel, which is where we started getting it down. And we started writing these down and collecting them. But as we descended, we ran into a bunch of skeletons, a bunch of undead, and kept going down and recognized that the tower didn't go up nearly as much as it went underground. And a little hard to get in there, but once we were down, we were able we found a statue, kind of a glowing statue of someone that was there. And Ignal, who had been dying to swim this whole time because he's this master underwater marauder, decided to dive in and go after some treasure and nearly ate it again.
Yeah, it was rough because there was a ton of. It was just breath management, but also there was like a ton of undead.
Oh,
There were
undead,
skeletons like
under
walking
the water.
on the
Yeah.
bottom, yeah. And it was an incline, so you were on the surface bobbing, and then they were underneath you, but it was an incline, so eventually you would meet them back on the surface gray.
Yeah.
You're trapped.
So a big thing for me from the Game Master overarching thing, this was a really big step into the second major threat. So we had this Honor Crin that were kind of being an annoyance for you guys, even with the Chain Gate, and now there's this undead Tower Skordrenar thing. So this is the first you guys really putting your foot into the water, your toe into the water there on this one. All right, then episode 16, Home Again, Home Again. Iggy delves deep into an underwater tunnel, gets more than what he bargained for. We just mentioned that. Sildren makes some new close friends, real close. And the heroes learn you can't go home again. So you got out of the tower and then went back to Edlin Home, the small starting home. Any remembrances of that?
Yes. So Xander had not been back home since he was lost in the Chain Gate. So he went to Bottom Hill, vanished through portals, and everyone else had been traveling around without him. So when he came back in Tavern, he had to go home and make amends. Let his dad know that he was okay. And turns out, didn't go as planned. The somewhat tenuous relationship that was already there just turned into a giant collapse of gnomes screaming back and forth at each other.
A real fun bit of role playing going on there.
You also met your half brother.
Met my half brother.
Hello.
Goddamn.
Hello.
That was funny.
And then we had to contact Killian's temple and let them know that he was gone.
Yeah.
That was kind of an homage thing, which I remember Jix actually being really out of character or out of typical character because of what he did at the temple. Do you remember that?
Was that already?
Yep.
Okay.
No, but Jix wasn't there.
Oh no, of course you weren't. You weren't there. That's
No,
right.
he wasn't there.
That was,
He wasn't
that
there.
was
A little bit further.
All right, so let's move forward then. So that was the end of our last get together. And then the virus hit us in the real world and we moved to Zoom online. So we went from episode 16, we continued the season with Adventure 1. And the reason we changed that is because now there was video as we streamed live on Twitch. So you can listen to it on podcast or see the video on YouTube if you want. This was called Adventure 1, Changing of the Guard. 4 months later, our heroes are still defending, still adventuring, and still sometimes getting into more trouble than they bargained for. Xander plays with fire, Iggy tests his strength, and everyone questions their fortitude. Not sure what that means. A meeting with their old friend Sir Brenros takes them back to Tabernary, but they find it's not quite the same as when they were there last. So Christopher now rejoins us permanently as Sir Brenros. You guys remember anything at all about Changing of the Guard?
so this. Go ahead, man. You're in it now.
Yep.
No, I know. I don't remember. I remember boats. I remember heavy armor and not liking water.
Yeah, that was definitely part of it.
That's your character.
But you brought up this was the first time you mentioned the chalices.
Yes.
you had a
So
quest.
Sir Brenros, this educated, eloquent, common tongue-speaking individual, hailing from Calavier, finally, with maybe his first big quest under his belt, had just come away from his queen, who had told him about these chalices that needed to be recovered. And this was imparted to the group. And I forget how we met, but at some point we were on a boat and getting that out. But describing the...
I think we met at the tavern or the inn.
Yeah, we went back to Tabernary and
yeah, there's an
discovered the
inn.
city had changed a whole bunch
Yeah.
because the Renarian Brotherhood had
Right.
came in and taken over.
Yeah, and I don't think what was imparted, at least at that point, was the dire nature of what the chalices represent.
Right.
It was important to Brenros, but everyone was kind of playing along at that point. Probably even thinking he was a little daft for going after some chalices, but...
But we took it on with you, right?
Yeah.
So we decided we'd partner up and we'd start all going it together.
And it was a major focus for a while.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
it was like a little mini
That
arc
took over.
Yeah.
for a while. The chalices. All right, let's move on to, unless you have anything else, Adventure 2, Flawed Judgment. I have no idea what it is from the description. Our heroes go underground only to get over their heads. A lost boy is found, but his father isn't convinced. Idrisil and Iggy make new friends and new enemies. A new business venture is formed.
Yeah.
Love is kindled. Xander gets groomed. Natural ones are rolled. It's complete chaos.
This is a great hodgepodge episode.
I don't know what
It's-
this is.
It's lots of fun little things. So we had an adventure in a mine that we had gotten into this arrangement of finding maybe this child who had gotten involved with the Renarian Brotherhood and perhaps being used in this mine as slave labor.
This is Tilbrin who had traveled
Yes.
with Brenros in the caravan. And when we were able to make it into town under Sir Brenros's knighthood, the caravan got captured, basically taken by the Renarian Brotherhood to be made slaves to work in their mine. And you were like, nope. And so we went down with Vanali's help to free them.
And then on top of that, we had this developing love interest with the former captain of the guard. and I forget who was
Idrisil.
Idrisil and Vanali.
Yes, you were.
This is also the episode where we got information to go to Namaral's house, which was like a garden party type of event, and Idrisil completely botched the interrogation.
I think Alistair was just getting frustrated and
Very frustrated with the lady.
Oh, a big part of this too was finding out, unfortunately, how powerful the Renarian Brotherhood actually was.
Yeah.
Because there was this one fight that happened in the mine, and one of us just got bopped, and it was just like, oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, like we fought one of them, and like we almost like it was
Barely. We got
close.
out.
Yeah.
And didn't this also end with Iggy and Jix captured by the Renarian
Not
Brotherhood?
captured. We went back. We got drunk with one of them and went back to the tower. And then
Jix was tortured.
we didn't know the torture until the beginning of the next
Okay.
episode. We
All right.
thought we were going back
Enhanced
to like,
interrogation.
play games.
All right.
That's
it was
right,
tongue
we were
in
gonna
cheek
play
because
Hammer
they-
tossing
Yeah.
they
Or,
didn't like
like-
Jix.
sex games. We weren't sure, but we were
Hammer,
down for it.
Hammer tossing either way.
Yeah.
All right. Adventure 3, Two Kings. The Defenders of the Realm find more trouble in Tabernary. I think that's what we're talking about. A walk down memory lane brings up some sore spots for our heroes, but also some possible clues for Sir Brenros. A bird and a cat fight it out. Jix learns about what happened over the months while he was displaced, and a new brand of king is crowned. Oh, and let's not forget the dinner date Idrisil set up with the former Captain Vanali.
Idrisil.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what was mentioned, they kick Ignal out of the tower and take his weapon, and keep Jix. Ignal wasn't sure what he was more mad about.
So I'm trying to remember, they gave Jix a choice. I don't remember what the choice was, but Jix chose torture, basically. Thinking it could never get
Say
worse.
sorry or torture.
Fuck you, bitch.
Each time thinking it couldn't get any worse. And it
He was
getting
asking you
worse.
about the wolves, I think. Something about
He might,
the wolves
maybe.
and stuff.
We're asking about the wolves. I mean, it's still a fog.
Yeah.
It was pretty traumatic. So
And then they branded you, right?
they did.
Yeah.
That's right.
Son of the hammer.
King of the Hammerheads.
And then the huge thing for this episode is it ended with you guys going back to the slaver compound ruins and then finding the wolf.
Oh, the
Yeah.
actual wolf. The wolf.
Actual.
The wounded man.
Who was
Phaon.
King Phaon.
King Phaon. Yeah. Which was like one of those things that was being alluded to, but we then found out that the wolves were supporters of the original king, and they were working on getting him back to the throne. Because Mirskon was taken over by the Senate, and so it turned into a whole bunch of like,
Yeah.
what side do we stand on, and do we take a stand?
Was this also at the end of that episode? Was it also we had made a decision to move the wolf?
Yeah, so
Out of the town?
Jix gave him an elixir to disguise him, and then we went to Tabernary.
So the Renarians wanted to kill the wolf on sight,
And they were closing in on him.
closing in on him, and we had to get him out of town.
And so the whole concept with this wolf is he's King Phaon. He's the king in hiding. He's lost his kingdom, and he's trying to use these wolves, these old insurgent warrior types, to get him back into power as the rightful ruler. And the heroes now deciding they want to be a part of that in some way. Which right there sparked, 5, 10 adventures of this political thing to return the king, the wolf, to power. Which then goes into Adventure 4, Battle Bards, which is essentially getting the king out of town safely so the Renarian Brotherhood doesn't find him. Our heroes devise a plan to smuggle precious cargo to safety, the king, but Sir Brenros has an uneasy feeling about it. Jix shows off some surprise talents and knowledge. A wolf is reunited with his pack. A monster that nobody knows the name of comes out of nowhere. And whatever happened to Idrisil and Vanali? What are you putting in these notes, Tim? If Xander will stop talking long enough, you can find out on Adventure 4. Any quick notes on Adventure 4?
We get a bunch of the king gives us a bunch of different directions to go
To help him.
to help him.
Yeah,
So
we-
one is to like go up to this keep up in the north, and then we got to talk to Lady Talmadrin, which all of this will come into play in the next few episodes. But we have a new quest logs filled up.
It's also worth noting that this is our first encounter with the Wyvern.
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 Why? Wyvern.
And that was a great fight. As
Oh
we,
no, it wasn't.
no, it was an intense battle for sure.
It was a fight.
That's a lot. This is that fear that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
this is the fear of Brenros in heavy armor falling into the water, which did happen.
Uh-huh.
And then we found out Jix was like commando water goblin. Shooting up out of the water. It was a crazy scene. And then we were trying to get to the secret spot. And that was like a kind of a low-key base of operations for the wolves. And then that started a whole, here you go. Here are the different things I want you to do.
All right, I'm going to move us faster here. Adventure 5, Liars, Spiders, and Bears. I'll just summarize. This is where Sir Brenros was able to get some of the first chalices back with a lyre and information on where to maybe get some more. You guys crashed Anshiel's birthday party, so that party we mentioned with the whimsical farce, you guys now went back and crashed his party. And it says, and Jix learns about tingle tossing. Is this like hammer tossing? Is the note in there? But let's move on to Adventure 6.
Folks, watch the episode to figure out what tingle tossing is.
Adventure
Figure out what tingle.
It is just worth noting. Turd Fuckington made an
Or
appearance.
Fuck Tarkington.
Fuck Tarkington made an appearance at the birthday
his
party.
only appearance so far.
The only one, and it was
So
it was glorious. It was really, really
Adventure 6 is entitled Big Things. The Defenders of the Realm continue to assist Sir Brenros as they follow their leads to the capital city of Mirskan. So this is just a quick one into Mirskan, right? And you guys are just
Just in and out.
yes.
This is the first appearance of Sir Kendall.
Along the way, they happen across some folks in need of assistance. Potions fall short, magic scares everyone, and you won't believe who pulls off the biggest sleight of hand trick ever. Don't know what that is.
I do.
Okay, and then, and did you know there were so many different kinds of mustard in Mirskan? Well, there are. Oh my God, Tim. We're taking Tim off these duties. So anything at all about this adventure? The big thing was getting to the city for me.
Yeah,
we fought two
we meet
giants.
Jix's parents,
Yeah,
his
there were
human
giants.
parents.
That happened there?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Saved a squad of soldiers from being mashed up into itty bitty meatballs.
And the reason they were going to be bashed up in itty bitty meatballs is because their wizard had died, and they were a little bit zealous. They were a little fearful of magic in general, and they were about to burn the wizard on the pyre, including his staff. And Xander tried a sleight of hand, which he doesn't have, but natural 20'd hiding the staff, and was able to snag this super high level magical item that became the master part of his arsenal for the next several months.
So big thing here, now the heroes have gone from small town Edlin Home to bigger town of Tabernary and now to the massive city of Mirskan, where they stay for quite a while. Adventure 7, Raising the Bar, R-A-Z-I-N-G, Raising the Bar. In House Summerall, the heroes find sweet rest and delicious foods. They also ponder the next steps in helping Sir Brenros complete his quest. This leads them to a tapestry shop with a less than helpful shop owner. Fortunately, there's a customer who proves to be more than helpful with plenty of information and inspiration to tap from. Egos are stroked, egos are bruised, and bad jokes inbound. So this is where I think we met maybe Jix's parents
Phineas.
then.
No, Jix's parents were for sure in the last episode.
All right. So that.
Phineas.
All right.
here.
So we'll go back to the parents real fast. I thought that was a really cool concept. Where you want to briefly talk about your parents?
So yeah, Jix the street urchin who kind of grew up in the alleys and the byways of Mirskan, learning street alchemy from the best of the underground. When they do get to Mirskan, Jix was apprehensive going back to Mirskan in the first place, but he follows with the crew, and they need a place to stay. He says, "Well, let's go stay at my place," where they walk to a very nice part of town, knock on the door, and are presented with mutter and fodder, who are very well-known leaders of House Summerall. And they're very proper, and they see a different side of Jix. They see the side of Jix who is well-mannered and polite and thoughtful.
Can use a fork.
That was great. And then episode 7, I think a big takeaway was meeting a new ally, a tinkerer. And Seth, you mentioned him?
Phineas Tumblepot. Yep.
Yeah, a gnome tinkerer who could do all sorts of really cool things and use this science magic that Xander freaked out about he's never heard of.
And then, also because of the name of the episode, Raising the Bar, you guys got into an escalating fight in a bar against a house. You were told, don't mess with house, don't give them your names, and you did the exact opposite, and chaos
That
ensued.
fight was broken up, if you remember, by Callie and Varro.
That's right.
Oh,
Not broken up, frozen.
Frozen.
Yeah. Right.
She stopped time.
Yeah.
That's the witch, the wizardess lady we talked about from before. So she came in, and what was the reason why she was
She
there?
she revealed the shadow box.
She also,
I think Rayneth was coming
she
back.
told us
Yeah,
Raina
yeah.
had
Yeah.
returned to Mirskon.
We are being hunted now. I feel one of you will lead you all astray.
Oh yeah, there's a hint that one
Yeah.
of the heroes might be a troublemaker in disguise.
And then there was a chalice downstairs
Okay.
in that same building from Monterey or whatever.
So you want to enlighten us on where, like, that hint of...
Sure. It was
It was
Jix.
Jix.
Yeah.
Jix. Jix, when he went with Rayneth the Shadow thing down into that little portal and disappeared for all that time, he got hooked up, and I don't know if it's necessarily charmed, but a deal was made to help out and lure the group into Rayneth's clutches down the way. And what Jix, I don't think Jix knew this at the time, but his big thing was his sister was missing. His twin sister was missing, and Rayneth also had her to really put the screws on Jix.
Yeah.
So it was really just he wanted to get revenge because you guys messed him up. He didn't even realize how powerful you guys might be or become, but it was you guys screwed up his little theater operation, so he wanted revenge, and he had the tool to lure you in.
He used Jix as his pawn.
Yeah, but it was a long con of go do your things, and when the time's right, Jix, get them down into my lair in the city, was the concept. So episode 8, Allies and allies. The heroes decide to lay low for a few days to let the tensions and tempers settle. Just how low they are going to lay? Question mark. In the meantime, the science magician, Mr. Tumblepot, has a dangerous and lucrative task for our crew. There's also a message from the wolf, which is the king, to deliver. But secretly, Jix is worried about what might happen to his family if it were discovered that he was part of the chaos from last night. And then I think Iggy was gone for this episode.
It was, yeah. Hiding out.
Oh, okay. I know what was big about this episode.
Yeah.
There were a couple of really cool things. One, the reason Phineas was so cool was he was kind of our gadget man. He was our Q. So we would go visit him.
I never thought of that.
And he just kind of like started handing us a whole bunch of things that we could use, and we promptly put them to use. So he as part of the exchange for giving us the gear, he wanted these crystals that he was looking for. What are they called? They were the crystals.
That's fine.
Yeah, and so we were given a indirect map of where to go, and we ended up finding in the sewers this underground kind of maze work where we found that they were going to be, and encountered another party. There was like another group of adventurers who looked like we were fighting each other or racing to the same treasure. They had used up all their gear and like kind of called it quits for the day when we ran down, and had a huge encounter with this ghost knight, this ghost paladin who was formidable at least, took a lot of things out of us, and we tried using Phineas's items and did not do as well as hoped.
But what was the end result of all of that? Yeah,
ahead.
that's the big thing.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No.
I've been talking.
Xander meets an interesting person.
Yes. I did.
Go for it, Tim. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
Xander meets another gnome by the name of, or no, she's a halfling.
Halfling.
By the name of
Party.
Clinique, who he finds himself quite enamored with.
She was very enamoring.
Yep. So there's a connection there. An NPC named Palik at the time.
I just remember this episode mostly because we spent the whole episode going, we don't need Ignal. We don't need him. He's not going to be, he's not important. He's fine. We're just going into a sewer. No problem.
Yeah.
Giant ghost of light. That's just giant Snorlax.
Why would we need our big damage dealer?
Right. In a circular room that was like 20 feet by 20 feet, I'm pretty
But
sure.
the end result of that encounter was a reward of information. That was key, literally key.
Was it one of the clues of Scorternon?
No.
It was the clue of the Nexus point.
Yeah.
Clue to get to the Nexus, which becomes a huge reward later on. So this is
1.3 miles due west.
So
and,
this is like a little treasure find was the first step, and they don't know what it is, but now they're being taught, instructed about this Nexus key to find, which would be valuable.
Through power, all can be unlocked. That was the mantra of Munsil at the end.
Adventure 9, Let Us Pray. Was it real or was it a dream? Our heroes are being hunted in Mirskan. The ruling houses of the city all seem to be in pursuit of the defenders of the realm. Meanwhile, there's still one more chalice to recover, maybe in town. There is a king to help reseat, and there are other leads to follow in making it all happen. Sildren decides to go it alone. Idrisil becomes a target, and somehow Jix comes up with the idea that just might work. I don't know this one.
well, this is the one where we meet a lot of the like Yandamore and Devar and a lot of the, again, political kind of
Wolf
figures.
political players.
The Idrisil thing, House Relmar was a kind of sorcery-focused house, and they infiltrated one of Idrisil's dreams and tried to persuade him to join them or, like, work with them. I believe essentially to get the Nexus key was the point of their thing, because they were looking for this magic.
Everyone wants this key, whatever it is.
Everybody wants the source.
Well, and House Vass was kind of the muscle.
Right, yeah. House Vass was like as you were saying, the muscle or the mafia sort of, and then there's Relmar, who was the wizardry kind of side, and then House Nakor was more financial, I believe. They were the money, and then Summerall were just nice
that's
people.
where this key in particular came from. I believe it was the vault key for their assets,
right?
And they wanted to use those assets to buy more power amongst the houses and whatnot. And they were trying to make a copy of this, so they had a backup. But while it was in transit, they had no access to this thing.
Yeah.
So we had access to everything and so forth.
It got,
that was a big.
This was a lot of puzzle piece moving from Tom that was good. That we didn't have any idea about, that he later revealed to us.
I would say that we were like easing into the political part,
Yeah.
and this was the first episode that were like politics.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh wow, we have to slide this here, get this one away. Sildren had a whole issue where he went to the bathhouse to speak with Senator Breyer.
Yeah, and that didn't go well.
That didn't go well. And so we're like, oh crap, backspace on that one, and how do we go over here? Like, yeah, there was a lot of just like guesswork of this adventuring party that's trying to jump into politics in the middle of it. It was intense.
Adventure 10, I'll just push through, is Insect Rodeo. The big thing here was the group going down into some pits into a temple and then battling their way to find those adventures again, that Palik character, the halfling character, helping them. And then the end result, I believe, right there was getting the key. Right? That's when you got the Nexus key at the end.
I think so, yeah, because we went through the different elemental challenges.
So that then leads us to the next episode, whose title I think is cryptically cool, and it's Antoria's Gift. Sometimes when you save another raiding party from certain death, you are appreciated. Sometimes you are not. Sometimes your life is forever changed. And this week's episode, our heroes battle it out and battle some more. What's their motivation? The hope of finding forgotten treasure, or simple lust for adventure. Oh, maybe that's more of that one. So you guys are able to get the key to the Nexus, which is... I think you guys then went to right then.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Want to describe what that was? The reward?
Well, just traveling through Mirskan, we get to one of the lesser districts, if you will, one of the poorer districts, and there's an inn or like a manor house that is about 3 or 4 stories tall, looks really shabby. There's no one inside of it, and we go up to the store clerk, or to the clerk, we're really nice to him. We keep talking to him, and he's just like, okay, 5 silver for a room,
Yeah, it literally doesn't care.
Just doesn't no caring at all. So we just sneak right up to the 3rd floor and then
Climb onto the roof, then take invisible stairways into a door that only unlocks when you're holding the Nexus key that we had. And when we walked in, there is a building, a completely different dimensional building that was amazing. It's got all sorts of resources and supplies, and there was tons of rooms for us to sleep in. And there are books that when you put them on the pedestal and start reading from the book, you teleport and you transport to the location that that book was made from. We found these spires that were broken down, but like using the key to get back, we were able to get back, and then found out we could make copies of the keys. So we could each have our own key that takes us back to this Nexus point, which is, from what we could tell when we looked out the window, way up high over an ocean and maybe on top of a spire somewhere, but it is nowhere near Mirskan. There was no way to see Mirskan at all. And the only way in and out was either through those books or using the Nexus key in the sky above the boarding house. It is the coolest place.
Yeah,
And
it was huge, like a ton of rooms and like
Impenetrable.
some cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely can't get to it, can't get in it. And even as we were leaving, House Relmar showed up. Like they knew where we were
That's
at,
right.
and
They wanted it.
they demanded access to it. And Xander claimed that he was the rightful heir, and so that's how it is. But because he was the rightful heir, he was given a seat on the House Relmar's board, basically, as one of the speakers, one of the elders. Which kind of like now we have more politics to deal with. But the house itself was just the coolest and one of the greatest possessions, I would call it, of the whole group right now.
All right, cool. Yeah, the Nexus I think is awesome too. I'm gonna speed forward a little bit since we're still only halfway through. Adventure 12, Leaving Mirskan, a little too early of a title, I think. With Leaving Mirskan was getting used to the Nexus and then getting, I think, just the stuff going. Episode 13 is called Still Leaving Mirskan. That's again, I think, getting things prepared and particularly getting attacked by demons and stuff. I think sent by House Vast, still trying to get revenge on Iggy, particularly. But the more
possessing Iggy, oh man.
but a slightly more interesting episode to me, plot-wise, is episode 14, the Talmaldrin affair, where the group then finally leaves the city temporarily. Anyone want to quickly talk about that?
This one was super fun.
This is one of the greatest episodes of Roll
Really?
ever. It was just so fun. I mean, the Cabana Boy, Lady T. It was so much fun. It was a garden party. It was great. Idrisil got to tie his hair back and let it down, put it up.
Did he get it? Did he get it on with the noble lady? Mm-hmm. All right.
There's no sleep till Brooklyn happening.
Was there a roll made though? Oh yeah, there was a hero points made. So what was about? Why did you guys go there to Talmaldrin's estate?
we were trying to get information from her. We were just trying to
Build allies for
do everything we
King
can.
Phaon.
The eventual establishing of the king. We were trying to get him as many allies as possible, and Lady Talmaldrin had one of the kind of deciding votes in the Senate whether or not she was reluctant to choose to go back to Mirskan to cast her vote. She would often just send emissaries to show face and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it was up to us to kind of convince her, however we can, to show favor to the king and his allies and forget all the other senators and all that. And there were senators at her place when we got there trying to dissuade her from listening to us. But it took Idrisil's kind of suave and debonair, as well as Sir Brenros' true words, because he was like the honest champion of our group. So Idrisil kind of fed her to Brenros in a way.
Yeah. From there was a big, interesting decision where the group decided to split up.
Yep.
So the next two adventures, this is adventure 15 and 16, we had half the party go south, half the party go north. The party that went south went to a different nation just a week or so to get, I think, the last chalice or one of the last chalices to wrap up that Brenrose thing, which again sounds simple and maybe busy work, but it's one of those Tom things that if they don't, this is like a small ring from Lord of the Rings where bigger forces will, I was almost hoping you guys would fail. So that was an interesting going off on that. And I think that's fine. That was self-contained. Again, more interesting to me was heading up north where you guys were trying to recover the king's flag for a sense of helping him return. I think you also saw a dragon and some ruins on the way up there as well, a red dragon in the kingdom, just briefly.
Half of the state because we split the party.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it.
But then you went up to this fort, you tried to get the king's flag, and there was a battle there. I want to briefly discuss this in the episode called Jix the Jix.
Yeah, we fight some man.
Hobgoblins.
The goblins are like in this fort.
Yeah.
And
We take over
take care of them
from the
pretty
hobgoblins.
good.
Yeah, we
And
make our way there.
And then
and fight the
after
goblins.
we clear out all the hobgoblins, right after we clear them out, some knights on horseback come charging into the scene. Idrisil immediately flees up into one of the houses, leaving Jix and Iggy kind of just in the courtyard, surrounded by 20 or so knights.
Yeah.
Call 'em
But knights of Mirskan, official guards of the realm or whatever.
Under rule of an entirely different.
Yeah, as far as we see it, corrupt Senate and all this stuff. So the general of this band is obviously corrupt by the way the game master was narrating his voice. Just not giving into any of Jix's pleads or Iggy's barks. Eventually handcuffs both of them while Idrisil's looking from a window, deciding what to do. Eventually, in the distance, we see another group of horses coming into the scene, but they're just too far away to make a difference. So he thinks. So Idrisil surrenders his weapon at this moment. Little does he know it's not going to affect really anything at all to the decision. They decide to start attacking almost immediately, but as they do that, King Phaon shows up with Reese and his wolves on horseback and attacks them from behind. So they're in between Idrisil, Iggy, and Jix is 20 or so knights, and then on the other side of that is King Phaon coming in, and an all-out battle takes place. Of course, things don't always go to plan when you don't have a plan.
What happened to him?
Jix was a fucking badass,
Jix was a badass.
and was playing the bravery card. Associated with some bad rolls, though. Got knocked down 2 or 3 times by this general.
Bad rolls and some good rolls on Tom's part.
Yeah. And stood up one last time at the enticing of this general, and that was the last time Jake stood up. He got knocked back down for eternity at that point. Right as King Phaon's band of merry men was coming in from behind and quickly put an end to the battle.
Yeah.
That was our second player death.
Yes.
Of the campaign. For me, right at the end, 2 interesting things happened. One is maybe days or a week or 2 later, it was Alistair, not the character, Alistair the player, sending text just to us as a group, or maybe me just personally, of how you were affected of, man, I screwed up. I shouldn't have been watching out that window. Like he was affected by how he may have contributed to Jix's death, and that was kind of powerful to hear.
No, it really did affect me. Like this is one of the first moments, like I've said a million times, this is my first campaign of role playing. It was like the first emotional moment for me of like, not only do they have consequences, but like it'll be a consequence immediately, or it could be in 20 episodes. You have no idea when things are going to happen or how they happen. But no.
I also like, two other things I liked. One, for the big bad evil guys in the campaigns, I try to give them powers and stuff so that they don't just seem artificial with plot armor and stuff. And others, I don't, but I expect big things out of them. I totally expected big things out of the guy that killed Jix. That guy showed up and was just instantly slaughtered. So that was a kind of a fun thing. Oh, here's another, nope, he's gone. All right, which is fun. But to me, the one that really caught me off guard was a line Seth said right at the end of this adventure while we're all processing Jix's death. And you remember what you said right at the end?
Yeah, we got to go tell Mother.
His mother, Jix's mother, and what she's like, oh God.
That still hurts.
So that brings us to Adventure 17. I have no idea what happens in this at all, and all I care about is with the title, and it's saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it, right? Again, the party was split, so there was a whole level of everyone coming back together, and our half did some pretty solid successes. We found another tower. We were ready to go. It was brutal, but we had some kind of epic fighting that came out of it with Brenros and Xander and Sildren. And so Xander get ready to tell the whole story and like looks around like, where's Jix? Where's Jix? And you guys had to go through an entire process of like breaking the news to the little gnome who didn't want to hear it.
If it's not clear to the listeners, real quick, episodes 15 and 16, we were literally only doing with half of the group
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah.
The episode 15 group that went south does not know what happened in episode 16. And the episode 16 group that went north does not know what happened in episode 15. So in episode 17, mostly everyone's coming back together.
Yeah. So
And finding out what has taken place in the previous two episodes.
the role playing was pretty real. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really allowed for that. This was the first time Xander started drinking
Yes, it was.
because it was hard for him to kind of tolerate. That seems to be fairly a nice mood changer for a while. And then we had to go say goodbye and tell everyone else about it. And then
We buried Jix. We had
Mary
a
Jix.
horrible conversation with Mother. That was Tom did so good with.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was. There was that room was
There's an
dusty.
Academy Award nomination involved.
That room was dusty that night. We also, that was episode or Adventure 17. We also got another part of a new member of our
New
party.
member of the party joined us.
Yeah.
Tim?
A new member of Percy von Skeetinglever, a loyal guardsman of King Phaon who has been with him in the wilderness while he was displaced, and who was there at the battle, at that battle where Jix was killed. Decides to join this group of heroes at the leave of the king.
All right, then, and while all this is going on, there's I'm sure constant little political stuff, just pushing and pulling information concerns. That then took us to Adventure 18, Commoner's Law at the Festival of the Fall Sun. Want to talk about that briefly?
Brenros.
Brenros can't ride worth shit. That's all I remember.
Again, we had some challenges to do at the festival.
Yeah.
There were some competitions that we entered.
Yeah.
With the best of our team, and and the aces in their places, and we all failed.
Yeah.
Horribly.
Did not go
Well,
as
there was the
planned.
whole concept of the commoner's law.
Yeah.
Whoever won the
Great challenge.
these battles, these challenges, got to make a law for Mirskan, and
Usually it was something like trivial.
it would benefit the
Yeah,
It was trivial,
yeah.
but it would be to a benefit of the commoners, and it was made by a commoner, and it was a day of sort of power for them.
And the senators were all kind of boastfully talking about this event and how they loved it because it was just another excuse for them to remain in power while they gave free year of apples to or whatever the commoners
To draw the commoner to their side for
But our group decided, no, we're gonna change things, man. Do it.
Gonna take the man down, and really, and like we worked on our wording. We wanted to be that everyone would honor the rightful legal seat of power. Right. Really, really set up the stage for welcoming in
our big reveal.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to Adventure 19, which has a kick-ass title, which is a quote from a classic Christopher kick-ass speech that he's been known to give. And the name of this episode is Go Find Your King. Oh, such a good line. So for this one, this is essentially the night before the battle, politically speaking. Everything's coming together. The stakes are getting high. Like it's do or die now, right before you make this big push. The opposing political sides are doing it at the same time, which then takes us, unless you guys have anything there, to the big one, which is Adventure 20, the completely original title, The Return of the King. What happened on Adventure 20?
There was madness in the Senate halls.
Did we start out in the Senate halls on that one?
Didn't
No, we
start
didn't
there.
Start there.
We had to march from the Capitol and had to fight
So
our way in.
the Yusoki started pouring out onto the streets. We skipped over it a little bit.
Piercy talked to his kin, who were traditionally workers in the castle, who served King Theon, and got them riled up. And so they started marching from the castle towards the Senate halls. Well, didn't Sildren do some instigations of some sort?
Sildren kind of put a point on it, as it were.
At the end, yeah. Actually, Brenrose had like a big speech.
I want to say something before we get to that speech, because there was an important moment that happened on the way there. So we're walking on the, I guess, kind of the ramparts into the main chamber.
Oh,
the Senate
yeah.
Hall, and there's a bunch of guards standing in the way.
Yeah.
And the main guard general is telling, no, you can't pass. Like, who are you? What do you want? And Xander's trying, we're the saviors of Varan in the world. All the 12 titles we've assembled at this point. It's not working, not going on. One of the guards, a couple rows back, stands them all aside and says, no, these men saved us from the giants. However many episodes ago. These men are true heroes of Navarre, and they will pass, or whatever he says. So we were allowed to go in through the Senate. So that got us to the Senate floor, essentially, where Sildren was doing some intimidation tactics, and then Brenrose was polishing it off, speaking to the crowd.
And then, do not forget Iggy going down below and finding out that there were honor cren in the Senate.
The golden people showing up again.
Yeah, and you got zapped tiny.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's like weird, one of those weird cog machines.
That's right.
Yeah.
This weird shit.
And then somebody started attacking the cog machine while Iggy was still in it.
Does the
I don't remember that part. There was no lightning involved whatsoever. What are you talking about?
But they, so there was someone on trial during this Senate meeting, and it was Andamore, I think.
A political ally.
One of the political allies known to work with the king. And it was obvious. Yeah, it was obvious that they had been torturing him. And so I believe at that point, Phaon stepped up as well, didn't he? He made himself known at that point.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was a part of that, and there was lots of big conversations. And Sir Kendall was sitting with the Senator Strahd and
I
Ketha.
still feel this animosity. I know it's past, but I still feel it right.
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
There's the secret rivalry.
So once basically things have resolved, the main senator that had been instigating these things had been really, the guy creating all these machinations behind everything that was going on and really trying to keep, King Phaon out. Sildren, being a druid of balance, understood that this person would never see that balance. They would always be working towards, a wrong end. So he ended him.
By ending it,
But
you mean you slit his throat
Yeah, and
threw
then toss him
over-
into the crowd.
Yeah, you threw him over the balcony.
Yeah.
Which to me seems so out of character for Sildren, but no, it defined his character from that point on.
Right, truly.
On the same balcony, no less, as the speech from the last episode. Go find your king.
For me as a game master, I'm rooting for you guys for big moments like this. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, if they fail, what might happen then? Then it would be, okay, all these different forces are trying to vie for control. The Honorkin are trying to help out the senator. Okay, he might try to then become a leader figure then. You guys would be expelled from the city. He could then become a major threat. I don't know, but blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking all these things, great. What I'm realizing now, though, I don't know what the odds are, but it's not a 50-50 you succeed or you're kicked out and that guy. It's more of maybe 50% you guys succeed, 10% he takes that role of power, and 40% you guys are wiped out because you're so deeply, I'm just now realizing so deeply committed. And it's like, yeah, the stakes are just super high. It's not, okay, let's retreat from this battle because everything's right there. And I just now I'm kind of realizing that.
And the thing that topped this episode off was that Phaon decided to honor us and give us all titles, should we choose to accept them. And a couple of us did.
Yeah, so that is the next episode, 21. So the king, that whole arc is now finally done. This big political arc started way back when. 21 is new friends, old foes. So we gave the players options, what they wanted to do, what they thought their characters would do, and we had a couple retire. We had Iggy retire from the adventuring group.
Yeah.
And what did he choose to be?
He chose to be captain of the guard of Mirskan, or the King's Guard.
All right, and then Idrisil also took a step away
Yeah,
from the group.
Idrisil decided to become one of the wardens, or the head warden, and go out as a ranger and help. His main task was to get rid of the Brotherhood, but also just go out and find other rangers out in Navarre and bring back Phaon's name.
And then we never saw those people ever again, right?
I think they died.
But then to replace those, we had two new characters. Who do we have, Seth?
Well, we had Palik, the rogue, who we had met as an NPC several episodes prior. And she came right in, gave everybody a bunch of crap.
Everybody!
Everybody. Especially Xander, who... secretly she liked a little bit, but he liked her a whole bunch.
Not secretly at all. Yeah, kind of over the top smitten with, I don't know what to do with feelings.
And then we had another new...
We also met Master Yaru, the monk, the catfolk monk, who's a panther. He's a... He doesn't think himself wise, nor do many other people. But he is a monk from the Three Winds Temple, and he has found his way somehow in Mirskan, looking for this great evil that his monastery has been kind of studying and searching for as they try to perfect themselves and reach ultimate balance with Varen and whatnot. But in his studies and training, he's seen these dark clouds and visions, which led him to Varen to meet up with eventually Palik, who led him into the pit for some reason, probably to loot some stuff. And then we found these adventurers, and their cause is kind of aligned, so he decided to join with them.
And he brought our next quest, which was a dark feeling or sensation, like a Jedi type feeling, leading him towards those pits again, which takes us to the next one-ish episodes of Bridges of Death. So you guys went down, and there you found that shadow guy, Raineth, there again. What's going on over there, Chris?
The Bridges of Death. I remember them.
Those bridges sucked.
And you guys encountered Raineth again, and I think he had to flee. And then you guys got a map, I think was another big part of that. A weird, cryptic, symbolic map of what exactly?
Let's see.
You remember?
Floating desk over it that said, the awakening has begun. The bone has awoken the king. The fate of the world has been written. and it was a map of. I have it written down as Nexus Gates, but I don't know if that was just hopeful. I think that was a hopeful map of what that
Yeah.
was.
Like more, didn't they find more than a map?
Bone fragment
I
must
thought
be
this was a
extracted
map.
from the tower.
In fact, of the gates themselves, but the map kind of wrote itself.
Right, and
And
you had like a
kept
bow
updated
Updated itself.
The bones belong to
Bandwidth
Scourge
levels.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, the next two adventures, I think we can sum up with this one. Our defenders have just cleared the Temple of Solene from an evil. There was this big evil presence around Solene. The king has given them about 3 different tasks that he would like some help with. They immediately started helping there. Sir Brenros, I think, was given an offer or a decision right after that. Do you remember anything at all about that?
Yeah, the king wanted to give Brenros the Brackenwall Keep. Was that?
Yeah, that's right. The place
He
where
wanted
Jix
to
did.
give me command of that keep. Brenros declined because he felt that Jix probably wouldn't want that, and wanted to look after his party some more. I think is what that. Yeah, so he felt pushed to venture on.
Should have taken the castle, man.
It was crazy when it was offered. It was like, whoa.
The next two adventures were self-contained, mini fun. 25 and 26 were essentially the Nightmare in Moss Haven, this more Call of Cthulhu style adventure, which was fun. But we can move right on. Right after that we start hitting the high seas.
Oh, yeah.
We start heading out west to the Thousand Isles. This is Adventure 27, Striking Gold. Their course seems a little unclear, but one thing is crystal clear. There is gold to be had. Palik has a few tricks up her sleeve, but Xander knows how to deal a cold hard blow when it comes to a bigger golden prize. Not sure what that means, but you guys start heading out west. With 27. 28, though, seems more interesting. 28, The Tale of Captain Jagged is the name of this episode. Permission to come aboard. The emissaries of the King of Navarre continue their journey to the Thousand Isles after a light snack of fresh seafood. Or is it the seafood snacking on them? Either way, there was seafood and snacks. Good job, Tim.
I remember that one.
Xander is always a hoot after a few sips of a pint, but serious business awaits. You guys want to talk about the sea ponies and all the goodness?
Yeah, this was our new charge. What the heck was his name?
How dare you? How dare you?
I know the voice.
Mad Eyes.
Mad Eye, that's what it was.
Captain
Yes.
Mad Eyes of the Taints.
Who got pushed a little too far by our party.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
There was definitely a level of Captain Mad Eyes is under the coin of the king, so he gets to have his ship as long as he does what whoever the king works with says, and takes him to those places. And we, as ambassadors of the king, took full advantage.
Yeah, a little.
We said king,
we were a
like-
little snotty about it.
Yeah. How many times did we
Some
say
of us
king on
were.
that ship?
Yeah, and so there was a lot of traveling back and forth. Right, we heard about Captain Jagged and how he was this impossible to kill ghost ship pirate that came out every 10 years. And the only way we could get information would be to go to the Isle of the Dead or to speak with the Blood Gypsy. And so we decided to do all of them. And we went island hopping on Mad Eye's dime from space to space to space to go find what we needed to do to defeat Captain Jagged, because after leaving the Moss Haven that you were mentioning, it seemed to be a pretty intense threat and something that we felt we needed to take on.
The next Adventure 29, A Manly Treasure, I think is primarily you guys going to a pirate town, interacting with a pirate lord type guy.
That was delightful.
But then I think a better landing point is Adventure 30, The Undead Island. Want to talk about the Undead Island?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
There's some interesting NPCs that cropped up a bit.
Yeah, Sir Brenros, you want to have that conversation?
Trying to remember. I remember.
He's old.
You made a compact with somebody?
We encountered.
was-
Yeah.
That was the one. Okay, so what we have going on here is is a behind-the-scenes, pseudo-clandestine communication between Sir Brenros and Skordrunar. And it's done in this kind of standoffish kind of way, but ultimately Brenros decides to make a pact with Skordrunar to essentially allow more or less free passage as long as we're dealing with his bigger issue, whatever that was. We hadn't determined exactly what that was.
Right.
And true to his word, if we came across things of an undead nature that he was in control of, they didn't overtly attack us, that kind of thing, which allowed us to go into this island and deal with some problems. However, we also ran into Raineth again on that one.
And that was the point I was going to say. Is this actually happened in reverse order?
Oh, reverse?
Because we went through an entire island of zombies. There were
Oh,
zombies
yeah,
everywhere.
that's right. Okay.
We found a Tower of Scourgeonar, went down, and found Raineth, who was hella stronger than the last time we saw him, and was absolutely decimating us. He used chain lightning for the first time that got each of us for 70 points of damage.
Xander wrote that one down real quick.
I remember this spell. We're coming back to this. But yeah, that was in the middle of that fight that you got enveloped in smoke.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you had the conversation, and then when you popped out of it, Raineth stopped, and the fight just ended. And we're like, hey, what? Hey.
This was also your big most clever moment I've ever seen in a game too.
What's that?
And it was this one, wasn't it?
This was it, yeah.
This was it. So Xander is amazing at coming up with fun ways to defeat this. So we were trapped in a big room and all kinds of nasty creatures, but one creature in particular at the end of this room was yanking on this chain, which was opening up a roof, which all these undead things were going to just fall in.
That's right.
But Xander had this amazing idea. He'd been gifted with what was an immovable bar. And he just flies. He stops this chain dead in its tracks, flummoxed the undead beast that was pulling on it, wasting all of that time, saving us countless damage. And it was the most amazing thing. And you just
Yep.
yeah, this is what I do. I'm clever.
So he did a couple things that episode because he also built the wall to get to.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed definitely some utility that
Yeah.
Xander was
Yeah.
capable of.
Absolutely.
Here's this bar floating literally in the middle of the air inside a chain link, just holding the chain in place and not letting it move.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Absolutely.
It was one of those Tom dropped his jaw moments.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you use it for?
Totally planned on that.
Not what I planned.
The next three adventures are all tied to the same thing. I think we need to talk briefly about each of them, and they're all tied to trying to defeat the undead Captain Jagged. So the first one of this trio is called, all capitals, Kombucha. So this is where all the heroes are on a boat with all these different NPCs we've been talking and engaging with over all this time, and they're all now trying to find the resting place or whatever of this Captain Jagged. And on the way there, somehow timbers or something got flared, and things got out of control, and things didn't go well.
So there was tempers were building, right? So there was
Why though? Why did that happen?
So Idrisil was
I know exactly why.
Yeah, we kept putting Mad Eyes in danger.
So we kept, not only did we put him in danger, Yaru kept insisting, you work for the king.
Yeah.
You're not a pirate anymore. You're not anything you want to be. Yeah, have fun. You work for us because you work for the king, and we're basically the king right now because we're his emissaries. So Yaru was not being very respectful of the pirate. And Chris said to Alistair during the session, he was like, he's a pirate. Pirates don't care about this. I was like, yeah, but we work for the king. So he's not going to get any money. So there was this whole thing of Yaru just not getting it, not caring. Everything was misfiring.
And I think Palik had been kind of antagonizing the captain.
On top of that, everyone else in our campaign was egging Mad Eye on over and over.
Permanently maimed.
But
Countless.
Yeah.
And
people on the
Sildren
boat,
trapped the boat at the zombie island just to make sure.
Oh, that's right.
I was going to leave that part out.
So what happened?
So
We committed some mutiny.
there, yeah,
Light mutiny.
starting with the cabin boy trying to get revenge on Jix from believing him.
Not Jix.
I'm sorry, Piercy, from walking out of the crow's nest and doing what he did.
It was-
He drew blades on him. Piercy responded, and without intending to, I believe, flat out murdered him. How did they happen? The kid
Sometimes
was killed.
You're just too good of a swashbuckler.
Sometimes you hold your blade when, but
But like that
We
was
passed
the
this.
final step. It was no longer the
Yeah.
we're just fighting against each other. You just killed one
Right.
of his
This is
crew.
where we learned that only Yaru can do non-lethal attacks. For
Right.
any reason. For any reason.
And so the captain attempted to defend the rest of his ship, and the defenders killed Mad Eye and his crew, and now took over the Tainted
Now,
Waters.
Yaru gave him a chance.
No, you didn't.
It was a pillaging. All right, so you guys now have control over the boat. That takes us to the next adventure,
Yeah.
33, where you decide to continue on this perilous quest into the episode named The Maelstrom.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are diving into a massive environmental hazard of this massive swirling storm. Behind you is Captain Jagged while you're trying to solve this puzzle, how to figure out how to, because you don't want to take him head on. You want to get access to him, his weak spots. So let's briefly just talk about this one.
The start of this is extraordinarily interesting. We went from invading the island of the dead, a face-off with Raineth, and a whole bunch of other nasty things, and without a day of rest, go right to the Maelstrom. So we are starting with badly beaten individuals exhausted with magic.
Yeah.
And here comes Captain Jagged over. It's just like, okay. here
That's
we go.
right.
So now
We
we'll
didn't
talk
know.
about the rest.
Well, we didn't know what to do either, and we sure didn't want to go into this maelstrom because
If
that
only
sounded
there were
terrible.
a crew that could sail the boat for you.
Yeah, Palik took over as
Palik, yeah.
captain,
did.
and that didn't do great.
This also started one of our morality challenge at some point.
Yeah, that was coming up because I don't know if that was in this episode. Was it this one yet, where we almost killed the old lady?
It was.
Yeah, it was this one.
Is this one?
And
Yes.
I think you're referencing something else too, right?
Am I? I don't. What I'm referencing. We had someone who was unconscious was going to get coup de grace with a
Fiel.
boot,
Fiel.
Yeah. So Palik
and I
had
forgot what the whole
found-
reason
We
was.
had this dagger that we were given
Oh yeah, that's right.
by Raineth.
By
Two Bards.
And as a kind of truce, like peace treaty, kind of, here's a dagger. We're both ultimately after, enemy of my enemy is my friend. If you're in trouble, use this dagger and you'll have all the help you need.
To kill an innocent person.
But you have to kill an innocent person with the dagger to get it to trigger.
It will summon.
Technically, you never said you had to kill them. You said you had to stab them with it.
I'm pretty sure.
I think you said kill.
Implementation.
And the party let Palik keep that dag.
Yeah. He gave it to Brenrose. Brenrose somehow ended up with Palik. I don't know how we did that, but yeah. But regardless.
Did you steal it?
Didn't steal it.
Doesn't
It
matter,
was-
doesn't matter.
So regardless, we're on the ship in panic, and there's a woman on the ship,
She's unconscious.
unconscious. This old woman, probably battered, beaten, broken.
that we rescued from the Tower of Scourgeon.
yeah.
That's how we got her.
That's right.
And Palik goes under the sail, under the canvas, and hides from everybody with her, and has the dagger out. And Yaru somehow sees the commotion, whatever, and stops her from doing this, and then lifts the veil. It's like, hey guys, she's about to do the thing, and so we stop her from doing that.
She's like, let's do it.
So yeah,
that
it was
was-
huge
so
morality test.
She's at the end of her long-lived life anyway.
So we ended up not doing
Right.
it.
We not doing
and
it.
then the entire boat got
Only
sunk.
because she came to consciousness before it could happen.
Possibly.
It didn't help that she
Two, and
was
there's like a knife.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you're right, Chris, because she woke up and she was like, "Oh, thank you for saving me. Thank you so
Right.
much." And Blake was like, "Yeah, no problem. Sure, get this shit."
So to add to this disaster, we come broadsides with the Captain Jagged's boat,
Yep.
and they start blowing the crap out of us. We can't get to them. They can
We
certainly
can't
reach us with
them.
cannon.
Yeah.
And gradually we are descending into the maelstrom.
With a lot of swimming and stuff. So for me, danger-wise, you've got this storm and you guys not being sailors. You've got this undead threat. And then there's this whole other, you've got to go into underwater, which again just raises the stakes again of breathing and armor and all this stuff. So that was, again, very perilous. But you completed whatever you needed to do, and now you're going down underwater and you're taken to the next episode called...
No, that was the break of the first episode when we went into the world.
That's the end of the Maelstrom, is you guys going down in. The next episode is episode Adventure 34, Monkey See, Monkey Poo, with C spelled S-E-A. I call it the Five Spires episode.
Yeah.
And that's where you guys now come up out of into some magical other water place, completely different than where you were at before. And this is Captain Jagged's tropical-ish spire lair place.
That episode opens with our cold read or our script, and Alistair was the only one that got that script that day because Tom laid a pretty big guilt trip on us for almost killing an innocent lady.
It's Fiel's backstory.
It was her whole backstory. It was really cool.
Yeah, really sweet.
It was
nice,
awesome.
Like a good person.
Very cringy the whole time.
Yeah, there was a lot of guilt going around. Well,
But yeah, so we ended up out at these Five Spires, which we might have seen before somewhere.
One previous in your party had seen before.
Yeah, one person had seen before.
But what happened there?
So we get there. What, the previous time or this?
No, what happens there?
Yeah, so we get there and we are trying to decide which spire has what we're lost. We're in the middle of nowhere. How do we get out? We don't see Jagged anywhere. We don't see anything. So we go to the first spire we can find, and there's a bird statue on top of it, I believe.
No, that doesn't matter.
There's menaces. There's it's seemingly ancient monkey baboon thing that's swinging from tower to tower, and there's chains connecting all these towers and stuff. But on one of them, there's a building. There's like a castle, a structure of some kind. And we get inside of it, and there's a ship on another one that's like on the edge. It's about to collapse, and one of the clues that we have is sink the ship again, I believe, or sink the sunken ship or something like that. So we have all of these like clues of what is it that we're supposed to, how do we get back? How do we, what is it we're here to find?
more puzzles, which we love and do
Yes.
so well at.
Lots of good puzzles. Yeah.
And what happens?
We solved them. We made it our way through the puzzles. At least it felt like we did, and we were able to get inside the actual chamber of Captain Jagged and find out a bit more of his backstory and kind of where he comes from, and also find, more importantly, his vulnerabilities. We found that the thing that would cause him weakness, it was a locket, I believe, and when we destroyed the locket, there was a huge like thunderclap that happened the moment we broke it, and Captain Jagged appeared and started taking us down and attacking, and the entire spire started sinking, if I recall. There was massive waves.
Waves were crashing.
Yeah,
for sure.
and what was left of our ship when we arrived was like sinking again because he was attacking it even further. So Fiel was on that ship,
Yep. Yeah. So our
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just saying that our ship was going down, so it kind of came down to the we have to do it here, and the fight happened. We got on the ship, we started fighting him, and going through the entire battle of Captain Jagged's ship.
The taint blew up.
Yeah.
The taint blew up. It was
Had to
destroyed.
fight on Jagged ship. That's
And you guys fought
Great
Captain Jagged and you killed him, and that fight was easier than I think anyone anticipated.
Yeah.
But it was because you did different steps to gain bonuses, and I was like, should I ramp it up in the middle of fight? I'm like, no, these guys earned this. They
Along
put
the
the
way
effort
and all
in
this, there were clues
Yeah.
like if we destroy this
to help
piece of
make it
him,
easier. So I thought that
It'll make
still
him
fine.
angrier, but stronger, but weaker at the same
Yeah.
time.
So now this threat is gone from the sea and everything's great except not.
Yes.
Because now the next 3 episodes I think we can group together 35, 36, 37, including Fire and Ice and the aptly named Home by Nightfall, KNIGHT. Now we have had essentially 2 major threats up to this point. We have had this Honorcrin Golden group just lightly dipping in every now and again. A much more on the nose threat again, but more frequently dipping in, and that's Scourgeonar and his undead presence. Now we have this big 3rd threat that we're talking about here as everything gets a little cold on the Isles.
Not just that, but I just want to point out, like you were talking about the ongoing tapped out people. By finishing off Jagged, Brenros ended up at dying level 5.
Oh,
and
yeah.
would have died
Would have died.
if he had not been
Because
hard to kill.
the Jagged ship blew up too.
And
Yeah.
it would have absolutely killed him, but his shield took the entire brunt.
That's right.
And was destroyed, which was a big part of what he did. Yara went to a dying level 3 and Palik was a dying level 2, and that's how we ended.
Oh,
And we
that's
were
good.
on a dinghy at that point, sailing the
Right.
seas, trying
Not
to get.
yet. They were in the water.
We were
We had to find them first.
Yeah.
We're on,
Yeah, people had to be
pieces of drift.
saved out of the water.
Yeah.
Big dramatic.
Which was
End of
Sildren and
episode
Xander,
5,
I
can't
think.
Yeah.
I just mean,
Basically gathered everybody.
to get to like the colder area, we got there on a dinghy. There were no other ships anywhere, so we sailed for weeks on a dinghy, and it was taking weeks longer than usual. For some reason, the weather was getting worse and whatnot. Eventually, we came to this.
But we had the magical yurt.
Yes, on the
did
Florida was a
find that,
magical
yeah.
yurt that,
But the end
lasted so many campaigns.
The end result for me, I think we can skip ahead, is there's this now cold, icy dragon threat coming from the north and spreading further south as a physical army called the Colium Army or Colium Dragons. You might hear that phrase with a lady queen dragon by the name of Charais. And these 3 episodes, ending with Home by Nightfall, ended with a big escape and a big moment, I think. So you're dealing with this dragon, trying to figure out this new threat, these little flying dragonkin guys, and then escaping with, okay, there's a new threat. How did you escape, and how did that turn out?
Kind of didn't really. Not for a long time.
How did that moment end?
So
Yeah.
if
We
anyone
barricaded ourselves behind a wall, a protective wall.
else, we found what I think
At
was
a
a
nexus
nexus.
point.
That
Yeah,
had a
the
nexus
nexus
point,
point.
and we were all doing our damnedest to channel.
Like charge that nexus point up.
Right.
Yep.
So that we could get back.
And
It took
Sir
almost all of us
Brenrose
to do it.
stepped out
Yeah,
to face.
the rolls were not going well. If I
No.
recall.
Yeah,
The entire
and so
time.
Sir Brenrose stepped out to face down Charais to give us time.
And
He did.
as
Truly.
far as we can tell,
Yeah.
he was killed because the last moment that we remembered that ended was Charais ripping the wall off and blasting all of us at the last moment that we could do the Nexus event to get that ready.
I'm going to put this in with the recap. He did actually manage to cut her.
Yes.
All that for a drop
Yeah.
of blood.
And
It was a
then
natural 20, wasn't it? Or something like that.
Something big.
way,
pretty
way
good.
high roll, yeah. We got the cut in, and then the rest of us didn't make it.
She literally froze us in time.
Yep.
But didn't know it.
Yeah, she didn't
No
know
one
this
knew
was
it.
her
No.
ability, but she froze us and that entire structure, nexus point and all, at where it was. And for 4 or 6 months,
133 days.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's 27 hours, 52 minutes. We were trapped.
Frozen in ice.
Frozen in ice. Eventually, who else but Callie and Vero
Yeah.
came and
Caesar,
thought us out. And we continued our adventure. We ended up in the Nexus.
Yep, back at the
in the
Nexus.
She
Nexus.
ported us back to the Nexus.
And that fast forwarding of time then allowed that ice dragon char ice threat to just really start to
Yeah.
grow and spread. So you guys are not coming back just kind of on the
now it's
back heels. Like,
winter.
oh shoot, what's going on?
It's
Yeah,
like
very
winter
cold.
almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time we hit Mirshkan again, there's like so much had happened.
So that it means that is our third character death of the campaign with Sir Brenros, and the fifth character to leave since we had two others leave. So a lot of change. And then with that, Christopher, you came back with a new character. Who was that?
Bolly Ashbeard, a dwarven priest who was mistakenly, which was very funny, thought to be a dwarven warrior.
Yeah, for quite a while.
Or at least
For good reason.
like warrior priest type.
Paladin
you know,
type,
Yeah, paladin.
You know, the cleric with chain armor or whatever.
But deceptively
stone
very
helmet.
soft and squishy, but nonetheless devoted to his art. And this cleric dwarf now had joined the party from emissary group, wandering emissaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a cool moment to role play, just because the king was kind of arguing with the dwarves and all the other people about what to do against this threat and how to handle it. And they were a lot of the dwarves, I believe, were kind of like, no, just ignore it. We live our own lives. And Bali was like, no, this is the true threat. This is what our people have fought for thousands of years, et cetera, et cetera.
Certainly put a point on it. For
Yeah, I
sure.
thought it was a really,
Yeah.
I thought it was a really powerful moment.
And it was also fun to get back into a dwarven character. 'Cause I was a dwarven character.
I think we can then group the last 5 or 6 episodes all together into this cold, icy army building arc of Char Ice in the northern kingdom of where you guys are at. You guys are traveling up there to gain information, to provide support, to fight back if you can. So just all of that concept. What are the big takeaways from this Char Ice, which is nowhere near resolved?
Yeah, well, we've entered Iveron, so we're now in the second northernmost kingdom closest to Jarvain, where
Actually, point.
I know, we have a big map. We have a big map now.
so we're further north. We have more contacts with a lot of the Nordic people who are a lot more war heavy and facing this threat head on. We've got a couple of the generals. We've taken down a general or two from the Colium army.
That's right.
Don't forget our important NPC.
We have, yeah, I mean, feel free to share.
Go for it, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh God!
So,
I thought you said don't forget.
one of the keys that we met a blood gypsy in the Thousand Isles, and one of the key clues that she gave us is that we have to find one who will help us defeat Char Ice, and she is this key to solving it all, though she may not know it.
And she can't know it.
She can't know it, and it's in the form. I was screwing the pooch on that real bad. This help comes in the form of a young girl named Yelena, who we eventually find, and we actually save her just in the nick of time, as there are Colian guards after her.
And then she
But-
saves us.
And then she saves us time and again. Yeah.
And the fun part of this too, with all this adventuring, there's this ongoing morality push.
Right.
You know, how long do we carry this innocent, who can be very powerful
Yeah.
and devastating, but still is a young girl
Yeah.
that we're putting
Lot
in
of
front of
front
dragons and whatnot.
Yeah, so we have re-entered the kind of front lines with civilian in tow, I guess, as it were. We entered a
Kind of a conscript,
a
really.
forest. We entered the Serene Forest, I think, to the Endless Pond, where we found our next clue. We actually found one of these. I can't remember what it's called, but it created this giant dome of like a paradisical landscape for 2 miles.
The giant ice sphere.
The dice sphere, thank you. The Rift
Sphere.
Yes, thank you. While we were near the Thousand Islands, we found one of those as well. But now we're in the kind of the middle of the continent at this endless pond. We found and destroyed this rift sphere, where we also found a dragonkin mage, a Colian mage, who claimed to be on our side somewhat, but
Not really on our side, I guess.
Not on our- yeah, correct, sorry.
He was told of prophecy that we would
yeah.
kill him, I guess, if he stood against us. So he actually like surrendered and gave us like actionable intel, and we were able to, I guess, use that to some advantage.
We let him go essentially
Yeah.
and told him he
Just
was
to keep
all
heading east, I
Yeah,
think.
keep heading east and try to warn your kind as
Yeah.
as much as he will.
And then takes us to present day, doesn't it?
Almost. So
Well, there's one big event
Yeah.
that we aren't mentioned that
So Xander destroys the Rift Sphere, and it creates a nuclear explosion for all intents and purposes, and completely destroys the snowy affectation and
Oh yeah, that's right.
magic that Char Ice is trying to create over this land. So it immediately starts to get warmer, and we are now.
and there's been a dragon.
We now have to decide.
So
Now,
now
a full-size dragon.
Oh, I thought he meant that was one of the generals. I was like,
Yeah,
What a-
because there had been a big dragon tormenting the major city there in Iveron. I forget
Yeah.
what it is. And then that came after us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't realize it, but he was hunting us apparently, and so in one of our last locations, he was at just after us, and then the next place he was going, might have known we were there because
Do you remember where we were when he?
we were actually in a tower of Scourgeonar, and we had just spoken to
somehow broke
Scourgeonar
the
again.
gears.
And kind of botched that a little bit as well. Thanks, Malik. We appreciate it. So just after that meeting, as we're coming back up the stairs, there are Colium guards at the door, and a giant Vodak waiting for us, and he rips the tower apart and all this. But eventually we kill him, and we go on our merry way.
And then it ended with you guys finding a Nexus
Yes.
pedestal type
Nexus
thing.
so- Quill.
Yes.
to go back to the Nexus, which is
Correct.
Yes.
okay.
And
Where we are now, right?
stop there for tonight.
The guy that the guy that surrendered to us, Hatrick, he provided a Nexus quill.
Yes.
Which Xander, I can't even tell you, treasures more than anything.
Well,
because
this is another campaign-changing event.
Yeah.
Like, this is a Xander-changing event, but yeah.
Xander, with the power of this quill, once it's fully charged up, can draw runes and creates a Nexus point anywhere that he is. Once it's charged up, and then use that to get back to the Nexus to keep everyone safe.
A permanent teleportation point to your Fortress of Solitude that no one else can use.
And no one else.
That's
can
crazy.
use. Yeah, super amazing.
And we now have one on the hill atop the lake. that
Over the
we-
lake.
Hilltop of the-
So that ends with the group still needing to deal with this Char Ice dragon and her army, dealing several blows, but still needing to deal with that. You still have a million other side quests. You still have the Scourgeonar undead, this Honor Crin perhaps lingering in the background. There's
There's still another dragon.
still another dragon.
Which I wanted to mention really quickly while you were talking about it, Tim. None of us know about that dragon. None of the characters know because Jix knew about that dragon, Idrisil knew about the dragon, and Iggy knew about the dragon. None.
Ollie knows.
Volley knows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's mentioned several times.
Okay.
Any takeaways from all of this conversation tonight over the last 2 hours?
let's get started.
Italian roast helps. Pretty badly.
For me, it's how much adventure we have done. I mean, there's so much great lines, great comedy, fun battles, great NPCs, small NPCs, moments, drama that we just glossed over and didn't even talk about with these highlights. And how much, oh man, you
How
guys
much
just
did
gone so
this
far.
recap cover episode-wise? How many
All of
episodes?
it.
Everything.
Yeah.
The number was
62.
62, and each episode's about 3 hours.
3.5 hours on average.
It's only about 100 something.
It's only about 200 hours.
Almost
of
200
adventure.
hours of content.
Jeez.
It's massive.
So for everyone who already went back and watched episode 1 till now, go back and do it again. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and another thing I liked when we started this tonight was, just for me as a game master, is hearing the small hints of the foreshadowing just dropped in early on that would barely be mentioned 10 episodes later and finally come to fruition 40 episodes later. That's really fun. That's rewarding for me.
Yeah.
Also, if anybody listening happens to know where Edward the horse was left, we were having a big debate about that. We really don't remember where we left our horse. So
It's still tied up
if
somewhere.
you could help us out, that would be great. Let us know.
Any other closing thoughts?
I mean, we've said it before, but I'll say it again. I think one of the things that stuck out to me this time was your dedication to creating this world and the second age, the third age, the first age, all that stuff we were just talking about with the underlings and
Right.
Jeremy, you were mentioning the elf statues and everything, all the stuff underground and in the pits and all that stuff. Like, you know, that's so the amount of time it takes to create that stuff to just that we're passing, you know, that means so much to you. It goes to show how much it means to us too.
It does, and it's fun and it's cool knowing it's there. But again, what you guys doing is just so much more important, so much more interesting, and and we said it before. There could be a fourth age, and just dealing with the history repercussions of what these guys have done is crazy cool.
So here's the fun part. We've gone from pre-pandemic adventuring, pandemic adventuring, now post-pandemic adventuring.
Well, not there. Pandemic adventure.
In the
Post-quarantine.
Post-ish.
Post-quarantine. There you go.
Emergence.
Post-vaccine.
And pre-quarantine also. I personally am very excited to actually be in the same room and actually do this adventuring again. It's great. You guys stayed safe, which is awesome. Any listeners out there, I hope you're staying safe. But yeah, this is a big deal, getting back together, face to face, same room. And there you go.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone for listening, for tuning in, for watching the YouTubes, for joining us on the live stream. We do this stuff because it's fun, and getting that feedback from you guys. By all means, take a look at our Discord, join the conversation there. We always love hearing your thoughts on each of the adventures. That stuff's always great. We absolutely appreciate your support.
Thank you for your patience while we've set up our studio.
Yes. All right. Well, we will end our recap here. Thank you so much, and hopefully we will see you next time on the next adventure of Season 3.